changes at Entergy Corporation and Vermont Yankee, and I'm wondering if you are satisfied with the changes that you made over the past week, and what you're thinking about this whole situation is going forward.
Well, I said last week that we'll, I think, be able to determine whether the changes they make at the plant and throughout the company are sufficient or not. There are a lot of investigations still underway. The Department of Public Service, Health Department continues to monitor the situation there. The Agency of Natural Resources is monitoring soils and groundwater. There are internal and external investigations at the company itself. So I think it's premature to conclude whether all the changes are sufficient or not, but we'll see.
Governor, excuse me, Commissioner David O'Brien said yesterday that Entergy would have to do something miraculous to regain the state's trust. And I'm wondering if the changes that they've announced just today constitute a miracle in your mind.
Well, I think, as I suggested, it's really too early to tell. I think we ought to wait and see what the results of those changes bring as these investigations wrap up.
You know, listening to the Entergy investor conference call the other day, one come away with the impression that, you know, Entergy says they're losing money on Vermont Yankee, unlike their other plants. Do you get the impression from them at all when you're dealing with them that it may not be that hard for them to walk away from this plant in 2012?
I don't know, frankly, what the likelihood of that is. What I've said all along, what I believe is that this is an important part of Vermont's energy mix. I mentioned at our meeting at the White House yesterday that Vermont has the lowest greenhouse gas emissions of any state in our energy portfolio because of Hydro-Quebec and our nuclear plant. It's a low-cost power. It's contributed significantly to the relative decline in our electric rates compared to our neighboring states, and it, of course, employs hundreds of people and generates millions in taxes every year. So what the corporate strategy is, what their decision is beyond my ability to discern, but I'm going to keep doing what I can to move the economy of our state forward, and we'll wait for these investigations to conclude and then take it from there.
You know, they cut how much power they were going to make available in their agreement with Vermont Utilities. I think it got cut in half. It was pretty close to that. Do you think their position, and you talked about it being an important part of Vermont's energy future, do you think their position would be enhanced in the State House if they would go back and offer the amount of power that they had previously?
Well, that was the first offer that was put on the table of the Public Service Board. I'm not sure that that's the end of the discussion, either in terms of price or volume, to be honest.
Given the circumstances of this building, would it benefit Entergy if they made a more reasonable offer sooner as opposed to later?
Well, I've indicated that we should have a purchase power agreement that we all feel about, and we're certainly not there. But I've also made it clear that I don't think that I, or the legislature, ought to be parties to that negotiation. We have a process through the Public Service Board where those issues will be ultimately approved, and the retail utilities are in negotiations with Entergy now. I think we ought to see how that goes.
So you're saying that at some point in the future, you expect that Entergy will come back with a counteroffer in terms of the amount of power available and price for that power?
I don't know who will make the next move, but I expect that the offer on the table is probably not the final word.
Are you worried at all when you called it for this time out, which it sounded like it effectively puts the vote off until next year in the legislature? The legislature votes, and then the Public Service Board acts after that. And that gets us up close to a date of April 2011, which Entergy has identified pretty much as a drop dead date. If they can't get some capital projects underway by then, they don't think they can run after March 2012. Are you worried that this timeout might actually push us back into that kind of netherworld of being beyond the clock?
Well, I certainly regret that we are where we are, but we can't turn the clock back. These investigations need to work themselves out, and the legislature needs to have the information it needs to make a decision, and the ESB ultimately will do its job as well. I am concerned about the tightness of the time frame, but I don't know what the alternative is at this point.
About 30% of the state's ratepayers wouldn't see a benefit from Vermont Yankee power or profit sharing agreement. Should that be, or should it be that all people in the state should benefit if the plant continues to run?
Well, Louis, I guess I'm not trying to get into the details of what the contractual arrangements are. We have a regulatory process to make that decision.
But that 30% of ratepayers are not in utilities that are part of this, so it's not really a contractual agreement, it's just the fact that where we are.
Well, it is in the sense that over the last few years, there have been payments to the state generally, or tax changes that affect Vermonters at large, so there are lots of moving parts in the whole process.
I wonder if you could clarify the timeout time frame, because I actually listened back to the tape of last week's press conference, and I was confused. At one point, you talked about it'd be better to wait until next year. And then at another point, you said, well, let's see how all these investigations turn out, leaving open the possibility that perhaps it would be an appropriate vote during 2010. What is the timeout time frame?
Well, I was intentionally vague, frankly. As a practical matter, it may not occur this year, but it might. If these investigations, both by our agencies and by the company, are concluded in a way that the legislature feels comfortable, then perhaps it could happen.
Entergy seems to have brought back the State House of lobbyists who was here before and then came, or left rather, and now is here. Should they be commended for recycling?
What to say, Dave? I guess I would suggest, as I did earlier, that I don't want to be specific about what changes in their management team are appropriate or comment on ones they've made. I think we'll know as time goes on whether it's been the right change or not.
So you don't know, you're not gonna say whether or not you think that the mix of people that they brought in to fix this is substantive enough to warrant an answer. Your concerns in general, I mean, do you think this is just looking at the makeup of who these folks are, you can't gauge whether or not you think this is a substantive move?
I really can't. I think we ought to see what the results are as opposed to look at who the personalities are.
How will we know what the results are, though, in time for there to be a decision? I mean, if there were to be a vote this year, there wouldn't be that much time to try out. You seem to be saying that the management changes will have to bear fruit in order to be judged successful, but there won't be that much time to judge whether that's happened or not.
Well, maybe not. That was my answer to Bob's question. I don't know if it'll be ready this year or not. We'll have to wait and see. I think we'll know it when we see it.
Just following up on that, if you'll know it when you see it, do you see it now?
No, we have a lot of investigations that are still underway, so we certainly don't have the answers we need at this point.
So you still have to see, I mean, I'm assuming that via the investigations, you would like to see them completed in terms of impact, A&R's impact on groundwater discharge, the health department's look at determining how far this plume has gone into Connecticut elsewhere. I mean, you want to try to have all these investigations wrapped up, is that?
Absolutely, yeah, and the PSB is looking into the adequacy of the decommissioning fund. The company itself is looking at documents and other information internally. They've hired an outside law firm to take a look at their processes and what happened in this case. There are a lot of balls still in the air that I think need to come down before we all feel comfortable.
Aldous Vanag said this morning it could take 6 months to discover the source of the leaking tritium. Is that,
Well, that's
how
why
would that
I'm trying to be
impact
vague.
your?
I don't know whether we're going to have the answers this year or not. We'll have to wait and see.